So good afternoon, everyone. To formally introduce myself, my name is Alan Guig, and I'm the Policy and Advocacy Associate with the Silicon Valley Council of Nonprofits, SVCN. Today's extra special occasion because I get to welcome all of you to our second of two Children and Youth Nonprofit Meet and Greets. In today's part of the series, we're actually fortunate enough to be meeting with Sarah Duffy, who's on the call, the County of Santa Clara's new Chief Children's Officer with the Office of Children and Families Policy. Now, in the true spirit of meeting and greeting, or the best that we can virtually anyways, we absolutely encourage everyone to be on camera, if at all possible, during this event. Just as much as this is an opportunity to meet and hear from Sarah, this is also an opportunity for Sarah to meet and hear directly from you. So keep that spirit in mind, and I promise that today's event is going to be a great time. And with that being said, we're now going to go over a few housekeeping items. So while I go through today's guidelines, we'd absolutely love to hear who is in the room with us. So please help us out by introducing yourself in the chat with your name, your pronouns, your title, your organization, and the native land that you reside on. And while folks do that, as a continuing SVCN practice, it's very important to us that I acknowledge that personally, I'm in San Jose, where I am currently residing in downtown. Currently, I reside on the unceded lands of the Muwekma Ohlone tribe. Together, let us commit to educating ourselves and advocating for Indigenous peoples, communities neglected and displaced by the US government, and other colonial powers across the world. Since people here are tuning in from different areas, I encourage you to learn about the land that you're living on by using the website that my colleague will share in the chat and share that information in your introduction. And also, please note that we do understand that maps can be insufficient and may not fully represent shared spaces, time periods, overlapping territories, and just so much more. We encourage you to learn more by engaging with the local Indigenous-led and serving nonprofits within your own community. For accessibility purposes, now we do have automated closed captioning features in Zoom activated for today's event. So with this, you do have the ability to move the captions around on your screen to a place that's more convenient to you, or you can just disable the closed captioning feature entirely if you just prefer not to have it up. To do this, please go ahead and reference the bar at the bottom of your Zoom as pictured on the slide. And you're going to click on the live transcript button on the right-hand side and then click hide subtitles. If at any time in this meet and greet, if you're having any tech or other troubles during the session, please do not hesitate to private message me or any of my SVCN colleagues that are on the call directly in the chat, and we'll definitely try our best to help you out. And of course, as with most Zoom functions, we do ask that you remain on mute throughout the program unless prompted by your speaker to share out. Please use the raise hand function to ask your questions for Sarah or simply just to introduce yourself. And last but not least, I'd be absolutely remiss if I didn't take a moment to thank our amazing co-hosts who really helped and led the way in putting this entire nonprofit meet and greet series together. So either using your chat box below or some of your absolute best Zoom reactions, please go ahead and show our co-hosts some of our nonprofit love with special and particular shout outs to the Behavioral Health Contractors Association, Educare Silicon Valley, First 5 Santa Clara County, Kids in Common, and Project Safety Net. Now, the table's been set, Zoom reactions are at all-time high. I think now is as good time as ever to pass this virtual mic to two of our co-hosts this afternoon, both of whom you may already very well recognize. But first, we have Mary Gloner, the Chief Executive Officer of Project Safety Net, and Dana Bunnett, Executive Director of Kids in Common. And welcome you two. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Alan. On behalf of my fellow co-hosts, we want to welcome you to today's meet and greet with our county's first Chief Children's Officer, Sarah Duffy. Many of you here today directly and through your respective important mission work created this position. Now, to quote a movie from my own youth, if you build it, they will come. Your roles, your vision, your advocacy, and your support made the Office of Children's Policy possible. And then when it comes to children's policies, the County of Santa Clara has a legacy of leading the way, not only regionally, but for our entire country. And about 30 years ago, adopting a universal health coverage for all children was one policy that shaped my outlook on life and the role of government as a young, new public health professional and as a child of immigrants. So this meet and greet is not only important to learn more about Ms. Duffy, who will lead efforts to improve the health and well-being of all children and their families, but it's also her opportunity to get to know each one of you and really understand the lived experience that you have and how you have garnered the trust and care and the priorities required to do this work every day. So these 2 past years, the pandemic and elevating race equity have shown our strength when we come together. And for the sake of the children and youth and the families, also charges us to capture this moment to do our collective work very differently than before. So now I will turn it over to Dana, who will introduce you to our moderator.
Hello, nice to see you here today. As you all know, kids are important to me, and it's great to have you here. And it's my pleasure to introduce Susie Rivera, who's one of my personal heroes in this county of work. And Susie currently serves as the Vice President of Youth Voice Initiatives and is Executive Director of Santa Clara County for Fresh Lifelines for Youth, FLY. And she's been there since January 2001. Additionally, Susie is a lecturer at San Jose State University at the College of Health and Human Sciences, teaching in the Departments of Justice Studies and Public Health. She's passionate about youth development, systems change work, equity, community building, working closely with stakeholders and the community to come up with viable solutions and effective policy changes around juvenile justice issues. She's a true advocate for kids, really knows how to connect with kids, and is a change maker. Susie, take it away.
Thank you so much, Dana, and so excited to be in space with everyone today. So good afternoon. Hopefully you all ate your lunch. I know I was doing that right before this, and feel free to continue to eat your lunch during this time. But I'm excited to be here today. And, you know, I definitely have been blessed over the last couple of decades working with young people, centering the voices of our young people, and really getting to know so many incredible, amazing human beings across the nonprofits, across our community, across our systems that really care about the health and happiness and healing of our youth, and how they move through this world, and what our responsibilities are to make those things happen. And I'm extremely excited about a space like this, because what I have learned over the years and what young people have taught me is, you know, first, before we do anything, it's extremely important to get to know each other as humans. It's extremely important to build those relationships, to make space to see and hear each other, and to be able to build bridges across organizations and departments and entities and individuals that normally may not have any ways of crossing paths. And so I'm extremely happy that we are creating a space like this where we could come together and have nonprofit voices centered here, and all the nonprofits that are serving young people across our county, and having Sarah Duffy here, our current Chief Children Officer, so that we could really make sure that we are hearing all the voices that would be critical in decision making and policy making, and moving it to be the very best for our youth. So, and for those of you that know me, you know I'll continue to go on and talk about young people all day long. And I will stop myself, and definitely before I do that, and before I talk about any of the procedures and different things and how we're going to go about today's meet and greet, I'd like to introduce Sarah Duffy. And I know you heard a little bit about her, but she's currently our Chief Children's Officer, leading the county's new Office of Children and Family Policy. You know, and prior to coming to the county, Sarah spent 10 years in San Francisco directing the analytic efforts to inform investments with the city's Department of Children, Youth, and their families. And Sarah has a bachelor's degree in English from Stanford University and a master's degree in public policy from UC Berkeley. And Sarah, I'm so happy that you're here and you're joining us today. And I'm going to pass it over to you for a few minutes to introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Susie. So thank you for moderating, first of all. And I want to just express some gratitude to SVCN for hosting the event. I think this is a great opportunity for the county to really connect, and for you all to get to know new faces in the county. So I'm very excited to have this meeting here today and to answer as many questions as I can about this brand new office. I also want to thank Mary and Dana as well for the introduction. So it's a great group, and thank you for taking an hour out of your day today to join the meeting. So I will, I think Susie gave a quick overview of my background, but I'll dig in a little bit more and kind of my my history working in the realm in the area of children, youth, and families, and my real interest in systems working together toward the well-being of children and families. And that's really why I'm very excited about the new office. So I've been working in service of children, youth, and families for many years. I really have the bulk of my career was in San Francisco at an agency called the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. And I'll touch on that for a moment because that agency worked in very deep partnership with nonprofit organizations in San Francisco, many of which have offices in Santa Clara as well. And in that role, there was a very, very productive relationship between local government and nonprofit organizations in all realms of serving children, youth, and families. So I've worked, on services for families from 0 to 5, early care and education, school-age children, all the way up to really focusing in on needs of young people that are sort of transitioning into adulthood. So I have a very big scope of work around children and families that I've done. And throughout my career, I've always really leaned on partners in the community, nonprofit organizations, and community members themselves to help inform the work. And my focus has also always been very much on really hearing from community and hearing from organizations working directly in the community on what are the needs of some of the most vulnerable communities. And we know that there's very, very big disparities in the Bay Area. So priority of mine is really to lift up the voices of children and families. I'm really, really interested in methods of engaging young people and youth in government decision making, and having that be a primary piece of the work that government does with young people and with families. So that's my background. Again, I'm very much driven by systems improvement. I think that's a good place to start when we think about this new office. So the Office of Children and Families Policy, I'll talk a little bit about it because it is a brand new office, and I'm not sure how much everyone knows about kind of where it's situated and what the vision is for the office. So it's brand new. It came about through advocacy and through the work of the Board of Supervisors in Santa Clara County, and it's located in the County Executive's office. And the goal and the purpose of the office is really to maximize resources and coordinate effectively within the county, and also with the external partners and community to promote the well-being of children and their families. So that really every child has what they need to be successful. So that means the office that I'm in will do a lot of work advocating for sound policies for children and families, collaborating with community and with county partners so we can identify service needs. And we will also rely a lot on community voice paired with research so that we can really try to make sure that the county is making investments that are as positive as possible for children and families. So that's the role of the office. I think it's helpful to understand kind of where it sits. So many of you may be familiar with some of the other sort of policy offices within the county, like the Office of Women's Policy, of LGBTQ Affairs, of Immigrant Affairs. Our office, the Office of Children and Families Policy, is in the same building. And we will collaborate on various projects. So if that's helpful in kind of placing where the office is located, it's right adjacent to many of the other offices within the county Office of the Executive that really work to serve specific populations in the county. And I've already started working with some of the offices, and it's been great because I think we recognize there's a lot of intersectionality between some of the highest needs of children and families and immigrant families and young people and LGBTQ young people and families. So we're really doing a lot of work to kind of draw out some of the relationships within the county policy offices. It's a small office, so we're building the infrastructure in the office right now. It's myself and we have a director of strategic initiatives, Arcel Blume, who many of you may know. She's been working in the area of cultural competency. She's director of cultural competency, and I feel very, very grateful to have her on my team because she has a deep knowledge of culturally competent practices, particularly as it relates to young people that have been systems involved. So that will be a big piece of our work, and it's great to have Arcel on the team. We'll be hiring a few additional positions, but it's a pretty small office right now. And again, I think that really the role of the office is coordinating, is being the entity in the county executive's office that can really understand the various programs for children and families and help connect the dots on what are the main needs and what kind of services are we providing and where can we provide additional kind of innovative practices that will best serve children and families. So that's the office. And really right now, one of the initial goals is for me, being new to the county, to build connections. And so I can talk through the questions and answers about some of the key initiatives that we're working on, and hopefully those will resonate with some of you as places where you can connect with our office, or you can let us know what you're hearing around needs of families and young people in specific communities in the county that we want to make sure that we're hearing from. So I will stop there so I don't go too far over with personal introductions, and I think we can start the Q&A.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for that detailed introduction and giving people an understanding of what the office looks like, in addition to a little bit more about yourself. And it's just really great to see so many folks in the room and a lot of nonprofit leaders that are here today. And as Sarah just mentioned, hopefully y'all been thinking about different questions. I know some of you may already have come with questions, or maybe some questions have come up for you as you were sitting and hearing Sarah's introduction. And I just want to do a couple of reminders on a few things on how we're going to go about doing this and a little bit of details around that. As Alan mentioned earlier, and I'm seeing a lot of folks' lovely faces and seeing everyone's energy, which is fantastic. But if possible, we encourage everyone that is able to turn on your camera so we can be able to engage and create that energy in this meet and greet space. And if you need to keep a camera off to take care of yourself, do what you need to do. But we definitely encourage that as much as possible. And feel free to also switch your view to gallery mode. You can see the attendees, or if you want to keep the spotlight, I have no problem with the spotlight on myself, and I'm sure Sarah as well, or share it in gallery mode with everyone. It's all good. And how we're going to do the questions is making sure that you raise your hand. We encourage all the questions now, so please make sure that you raise your hand in order. We're going to take it in the order that it comes in. And when we do take that, please remember to introduce yourself, as Sarah is still learning all the different services that are happening across our counties and all the different leaders. So making sure to introduce yourself, say a few words about what it is that you do at your organization, and then you can ask the question directly to Sarah. So I would like to open it up now. I'm sure everyone knows how to do that. And I see people are still introducing them in chat, but if you have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. And I know some of you might still be thinking about that. And the other thing I wanted to note too is, depending on what questions come here, and I know we're set to be at 2 o'clock, we're going to do our best to answer what we're able to in this space. And for anything that we're not able to get to, the SVCN team will definitely be capturing all of those pieces so we can have follow-up. And it looks like I do have our first hand up, and I will go ahead and pass that over to Annie.
I'll break the ice, and sorry I'm off camera a lot. I'm actually trying to have lunch. It's a pretty simple question, so I thought I'd ask first. I'm here representing the Palo Alto League of Women Voters Gun Safety Committee, and they requested that we make some contact to understand what might be the conduits of communication, and how all of these different wonderful nonprofits and parts of our educational system and all of our medical systems can get a little bit more in tune in terms of informing patients, clients, parents, students about gun safety protocols, about the current legislation, about safe storage, et cetera. As in, I think a lot of systems, there are many systems trying to do the same thing. And they're most interested in the moment about reaching mental health professionals and also educators and also parents in terms of their awareness of a program called Be Smart, which allows parents to help to inform other parents about gun safety issues and practices. So I guess, you know, a part of what the committee is looking for are conduits of communication and just knowing how that's going and how everyone can be a little bit more in tune with each other.
Okay, thank you, Annie. I really appreciate that question because I think in going over the introduction, there's so many different things I can cover about the office. And one thing I didn't really touch on is I think one of the key roles of the office is really to be a convener and to understand the various roles in the county of agencies that do serve children, youth, and families, and where there are connection points so that when there is an issue, for example, that, you know, like gun safety, where we want to communicate out to various agencies that can help promote, you know, best practices or share information out, we know where to go. So I've started to do some really useful meetings with various departments and divisions within departments or agencies such as public health, behavioral health, social services, and probation within the county, as well as making some really informative connections with the County Office of Education, with school districts, with cities, and then with some key organizations that. So I'm starting to get a fairly good understanding of, you know, the purview of work, and that's allowing me to share out information as it comes into me and kind of help work together to figure out who could take an information and distribute it and you know, distribute it both with staff, but also with, as you mentioned, families and educators, if we're talking about information that would be helpful to get out to schools. One of the goals for this year for the office, right, so it's a brand new office, is to create an online presence and a website. That is a goal by, you know, end of fiscal year to have that done. And I envision the website as being a place where we can also post resources and make sure that that resources are housed in one place where we can direct people, and it can be a place where people can find information around resources and initiatives and upcoming events for children and families in the county that people send. It's not going to be like everything A to Z on children, but if there's something that's really critical that people want to make sure there's a broad audience for, we can help post it on our website. So that's something I'll be working on this year. I hope that answers the question.
That's very helpful. And if folks from our committee would like to contact you, is there a good way to do that? Email
right now.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm not good about checking voicemail and getting back
to
people, but email, I can promise at this point within maybe 2 days, I can get back to you. I'll do my best.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Annie, for kicking us off in our questions. And thank you, Sarah, for being so very detailed. And the next person we have is Lisa. You have the screen. The screen is yours.
Great. Thank you. Sarah, welcome to Santa Clara County. We're excited to have you, especially the focus on children and families. I'm Lisa Andrew, the CEO and president of the Silicon Valley Education Foundation. And in our role, we advocate and deliver for high quality STEM education for underserved youth so that they can enter college and career, mostly economic mobility in Silicon Valley and be the workforce of Silicon Valley. So great. I have an awesome job and really looking forward to meeting you and working with you. I know that when people say education, I get tons of everything. oh, you're involved in education, so you must care about, buses, and you must care about this and that. So I can only imagine with your title of children and family, everything gets on this. So how are your priorities being set, and what are your priorities for the next year?
Thank you, Lisa, for that question. That is true. That's why I think it's like, what do I want to cover in this intro where I only have a couple minutes? So I think, so for the office, it's a small office, right? It's just myself and a small group of staff. So we are going to really need to hone in on key priorities. And right now, I think the thinking is, and this may shift as we develop a strategic plan for the office. Right now, it's sort of two-part. I really want to build up the office's ability to kind of, again, understand sort of the landscape of needs of children and families based on data that we're seeing. And Dana has some wonderful data resources like the children's data book that are great. There's the children's budget. So there's some great resources on as far as quantitative data is concerned. And then there's also a lot of information that's collected across the county on directly from children, youth, and families. And we want to leverage that and really understand what organizations and agencies are hearing and hear directly from organizations on what the needs are. So that's kind of part A, which is really just having this kind of bird's eye view of the needs in the county and the services and how agencies and organizations are working together. There's also a piece of it, which is priority projects, and those come typically from the Board of Supervisors. And our office will be partnering with the board to help identify priorities for the county and advise on policy development. So right now we have a couple priorities that existed when I came on board that I don't think anyone here would argue with their importance. And I'll quickly kind of walk through what those are. There was a children's roadmap to recovery that was heard by the board in the spring, and it set the course for some new investments and focuses for the county. One is on some research and an assessment of the landscape of school-based behavioral health and wellness centers across the county. So this fall, we're going to be looking really carefully at what are the resources around behavioral health for students and also for their families, working in partnership with the County Office of Education and behavioral health. And the purpose of that is to look at what exists and think about how we can expand, because we know that there's such an intense need for mental health supports, and we know that school is for young people, and that school is in many ways the optimal place, right, to have those services. So wellness centers and schools is one. Another is some new funds available for grief counseling for families where there are children who have lost a family member to COVID. So that is a priority to make sure that resource is available for any young people that have really suffered a loss and need the additional counseling specific to loss. And then the third is partnership between our office and First Five to really address the issue of early care and education workforce development and sustainability. And that's a really exciting few pilots. Jennifer spoke to these on Tuesday during her meet and greet, where we have an apprenticeship program to introduce new talent into the early care and education field, expand the workforce as transitional kindergarten comes on board for more and more students in the county, and also some supports for early care and education. This is all driving to try to build up the workforce in the county for early care and education, and really not only bring in very high quality staff, but also address some of the losses in workforce in early care and education that have happened during COVID, and that we know we need to really hone in on and focus on. So I think that the early care and education area is going to be a really big focus for our office, and it's one that is very, very important, kind of setting the foundation for young children as they prepare for the life ahead of them and entering into school. So those are the current priorities right now. And I think each year my hope is we can do a work plan and set the priorities in advance, and those will be heard by the board and available to everyone. So it's really transparent.
Thank you so much. And we'll go to our next question. Jim, screen is yours.
Yeah, hi, Sarah, and hi, everyone. Sarah, congratulations on your role and your position. I'm sure you're proverbially drinking from the fire hose, as they say, as you try to wrap your mind around everything that you're trying to accomplish. So hats off to you. I'm Jim Santucci, and I serve as the executive director with CARA, which is a bereavement support organization that's been around since the late 70s. And primarily our model of support is through a peer-based support model, serve about 4,000 to 5,000 community members annually. But my question is specific about your second priority initiative around support for youth. And Judy's House in Denver, Colorado has done some really great work with the childhood bereavement estimation model. Over the last over 5 years, they've been doing a lot of work here. And they figured out that this tool allows us to see how many kids are bereaved in geographic regions. And in particular, Santa Clara County, I had them do a search. I had them do a research specifically for the counties that we serve. And currently, the projected estimate is, the current estimate is 1 in 30 youth under age of 25 are currently bereaved due to a death of a parent or sibling. So that's pretty large number. And if you look at the projected estimates that they've worked, it's 1 in 12. So 8.3% of the population under 25 is projected to be, grieving the loss of just a parent or sibling. So it's a pretty staggering number. So with the goal of, the second priority with providing counseling and support to bereaved children, could you speak a little bit more of some of the initial things that the county is thinking about, or maybe not, maybe it's just in a formulative model at this point, but I think Judy's House provides some really fantastic data. And I've had him, like I said, I had him drill down for me because we, work specifically in the grief field. And it's really interesting to see the populations that are bereaved, and certain populations, marginalized populations, underserved. Those numbers are even higher percentages, as you would imagine. The COVID study that was just done nationally, it's 1 in 450 kids. But those numbers, they're really underrepresented. Ultimately, when someone's bereaved, a child's bereaved, it's not just a mom or sibling. There's a grandparent, there's other people that care for them. So these projections are pretty amazing in sense of how large and staggering they are. And I think, death and loss it never was initially included in the, ACEs project. But we know to be true that there's a lot of developmental delays and actions that don't happen when children don't find the support they need. So all that to say, I'd love to hear a little bit more of what the county's thinking.
Thank you, Jim. And I think, the information that you just provided it exemplifies, I think, some of the relationship building that will be so helpful to our office. So knowing more about your work and sharing research and sharing the tool that you mentioned from Judy's House is something that's very valuable. As we think about some of the needs of children and some of the more critical or more severe needs, like children that have lost family members and are dealing with grief. So it's hearing more about what all of you do is really helpful to me, because then, you may have seen me write down, I take a quick note about who's doing what so that I can come back to that and reach out as we work on different projects. With regard to the grief counseling, it's a brand new pilot. So we just finalized a contract with Bill Wilson Center for additional counseling services. And it's very much in the outreach stages. So the numbers that you provided are really helpful. This is very specific to young people that have lost a family member to COVID. And it's really intended to be, for an immediate family member. And so we're just starting outreach, and it's starting to ramp up because we're using the schools and the behavioral health services in schools as a mechanism for outreach. And we're going to see how it goes. We'll definitely be reporting back periodically to the Children, Seniors and Families Committee of the Board of Supervisors around like how successful the outreach is, how the upkeep is going. We'll want to probably try to get some understanding of if you know what the demand is. It's a pilot, so it may need some adjustment. And so if that ends up being the case in a couple of months, then I'd love to reach out and have further conversation around the topic of grieving and young people and their families.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, and such thoughtful questions with everything that we are dealing with across the county. I'm going to turn the screen over to my good friend Dana.
Hi again. Thanks for mentioning the data book earlier, and that is a project of Kids in Common, the county, and the County Office of Education. And the data book shows us over and over again that kids of color, kids with disabilities, many different subgroups of kids are doing far less well than, kind of the general population looks good, but when we start looking in these different groups, we see really big differences in how our kids are doing. I'm wondering what steps your office will be taking to make sure, the work you're doing is focused on racial justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion.
Okay, thank you, Dana. One of the reasons that I was, very interested in this role and interested in working for Santa Clara County, and specifically working within the county executive's office and adjacent to many of the offices that I mentioned, is the really strong commitment that the government here has made to incorporating diversity, equity, and belonging to all aspects of the work. It is a priority. It's been a priority for me professionally since the beginning of my career, to really, when we think about children and families, to really look very deeply at the vulnerable communities and what the needs are. And so, there's a lot of different ways to do that. I think I've done a lot of work with various forms of collecting information to help inform kind of what are the needs, ranging from the type of data that's in the data book, and really pulling that apart and looking at it, for example, data around education outcomes, for example. Absenteeism is often discussed as like a very critical measure that's a predictor of future success. And when you look at something like absenteeism, looking at it from the lens of how well young people are doing that belong to different race ethnicity groups, that speak different languages, that attend different schools. So we can start to unpack who are those students that need the supports the most. And then from there, looking at data hard data, like quantitative data, only takes you so far at that point. I really am a firm believer in the importance of working with community, and working with community that is working with organizations that are kind of on the ground, working with community to understand what is getting at the root of outcomes not being positive for everyone. And acknowledging, a lot of the historical traumas and historical reasons why different communities have been unable to access all of the resources, all of the opportunities that other communities have had. So I think this is these are critical pieces of the work. And this is a topic I think that can be discussed for days in really productive ways. And I will just say that, thinking about equity and belonging and having those principles be front and center will be key to every project that we do. So making sure that we're looking at things through a racial equity and inclusionary lens, and also making sure that we're incorporating community voice and voices of the young people or the families that are receiving services into all of the projects is critical as well. So that's my commitment to the role. If I didn't feel like it was a county priority, I don't think I'd be in the position. I really want to elevate that and work on that across systems, across partners, and hear also what different organizations are doing that is kind of on the forefront of lifting up equity and creating opportunities in so many different diverse communities in Santa Clara. And I think there's so much room for learning together around issues of equity and creating equitable services, that it's an area that I hope to continue to learn in until the day that I retire, and really love partnering on that work.
All right, thank you so much. Our next question will be from Jennifer.
All right, hi everyone. So I'm Jennifer, and I'm one of the board members at Project Safety Net. And first of all, thank you all so much for this opportunity to ask questions, but also to get to know the department a little bit better. So as September is Suicide Prevention Awareness Month, and according to CDC, suicide is the second leading cause of death among children 10 to 14, and the third leading cause of death among youth 15 and older. I would just like to know a little bit about how you see your role and your organization lead policies in suicide prevention specifically, but also mental health and substance use, both in communicating with the public, but also more from an intergovernmental perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. So I think, I think from the kind of in thinking about the role of our office as a connector and an office that can draw on the expertise of various county agencies and organizations that work very deeply in these areas, addressing the issue of youth suicides and of mental health services that ideally are preventing or reducing the number of the amount of suicide ideation, and is an area where I think we have a very, very strong public health department and behavioral health services department in Santa Clara County. They're the experts on this, but there's also a lot of work that can happen around connecting their expertise to other systems, specifically, of course, the education system and schools. And so I think it's looking at what are the resources, what are the relationships, how are we leveraging all of the knowledge around prevention and applying it so that the messaging and the services get out to students, particularly middle school and high school students and their families around support. So I am not an expert in this area. I mean, I've read many reports on it, and I've tried to be as informed as possible, but I'm not a public health expert. But I think the county is very, very fortunate to have a lot of experts in the area. So it's a matter of identifying, ways, mechanisms to make sure that the messaging and the services are getting out there. And the Wellness Center project is one of those projects where I think the more we can expand mental health services in schools, the better positioned schools will be able to, and programs at schools will be able to help grow out the suicide prevention work.
Thank you so much. As we see a lot of this happening across the county, it's hard for me not to want to comment on all these different things that we're definitely seeing, and that all of you are doing so much work on every day to keep our children safe and happy and healed. So I will give the screen over to Andrew.
Thanks, Susie. Hi, Sarah. My name's Andrew Kane. I am with the Law Foundation of Silicon Valley. I'm the directing attorney of our Legal Advocates for Children and Youth program. I just want to first echo what everybody said, and gratitude for you being here today and taking the time to give us an opportunity to learn more about your priorities and where the office is headed. Sort of in that vein, maybe thinking a little bit more longer down the road when thinking about priorities. The work that my office does involving system-involved youth typically, not exclusively, but typically involves either the child welfare system or the juvenile justice system. And I'm curious if down the road, whether it's several months or even years down the road, do you envision your office having a direct role in any capacity in supporting children and families who are involved in either of those systems?
Thanks, Andrew. Actually, we are already working on some projects, which I can talk just a little bit about, that are supporting resources for young people that are systems involved. So that is already a big piece of the work of the office. And I mean, I guess to kind of back up a little bit, when we look at what are the needs of children and families in the county, and we look at, you know, which communities or groups of children and families need services the most. We look at various kind of, you know, indicators of well-being. Young people that are system involved are always a priority, right? And so, you know, kind of going back to the data point of absenteeism, we know that rates of absenteeism are much higher for, you know, probably obvious reasons for young people that are involved in the foster care system or involved in the justice system, because in many of these cases, their lives involve a lot more movement and lack some of the stability to attend school regularly for many different reasons that depend on each child's circumstance. And so, you know, I think there's commitment from the county and commitment from our office to prioritize the well-being of young people and of families who are system involved, and look at how well everything is coordinating. Right now, I'm working on a project that just is getting kind of off the ground to report back to the Board of Supervisors on you know, education services in detention, and how the coordination between the probation department and the County Office of Education and school districts is working together to ensure that young people who are coming out of detention have all of the resources they need, and their families have all of the resources they need for success. This project is just getting off the ground. And so I also, again, want to, you know, give a shout out to Arcel Blume, because I feel very fortunate to have someone who's got a very deep history of working with systems involved, working on issues around systems involved young people in the county for many years, and can lend that expertise. So I'll lean on her quite a bit, but I've already, you know, starting to really understand the work of the Social Services Agency and of probation around supports for young people and their families that are justice involved, and that will continue to be a very high priority for our office.
Thank you so much. And Rob.
Thank you, Susie, and Sarah, thank you so much for your time today. Congratulations on your new role and for your courage to step up and be a voice. And also to the group for the work that they do every day. I come to this meeting, to this space as a board member from Project Safety Net as well, like Jennifer, but I'm a parent, not a professional. And I'm privileged to be educated and informed, but still feel lost as a parent. So when I look at this group, I see a group that's kind of parallel and siloed to each other, under-resourced and ready to work together. So I ask for your thoughts around this space. I think that that is a challenge for probably every face on this screen, is how do we unify in a collaborative way? How do we protect and support our children? I just reflect on how hard it is for me to support with the resources I have, and really feel for the community that doesn't have the support and benefit that I get. So I'd love your thoughts, and congratulations again.
Thank you, Rob. Let's see, I want to make sure I understand and answer the question. The question is, how can nonprofit is the question really, how can nonprofit organizations sort of join together to kind of leverage supports and be able to continue doing the important work that everyone here is doing, or everyone that works in nonprofits is doing for children and families?
Definitely, and for you to lean in with the responsibility and commitment of your role from the county,
Yeah,
that it's a great message, and we're very excited.
Yes, no, I recognize the really key work that nonprofit agencies do, and starting from being in the community, working with children and families, understanding the needs, and then bringing the expertise to in the different areas that you all work in, to really improve the experiences and in many cases the lives of young people. I don't know if I know that there's a lot of let's see, challenges around living in the Bay Area, living in Santa Clara County, and the cost of doing business and the cost of living. And I think that's something that all of the leadership really in Santa Clara County is aware of, and certainly the county executive office is aware of the cost of living in Santa Clara County. And so I think what I can promise to do is keep that issue on my radar, and continue to kind of hear from you all on how things are going and how things are faring. I don't oversee contracts. I don't oversee that kind of decision making, but I think it's really important to understand how well nonprofits are doing, how well their staff are doing, because you all are such critical parts of the landscape of services for children and families. So I don't know if I'm answering that completely. I don't want to speak on behalf of other entities in the county, but I do want to say that I think everyone is aware of kind of the challenges of living and working in the county in terms of cost of living.
Thank you so much. And we're going to take our next question, which potentially could be our last question. So if you have any burning last ones that you want to put into the chat so that we could make sure that our team gets those together and has Sarah get back to you via email. But we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Priyanka for your question.
Thank you, Susie, and good afternoon, everyone. Hi, Sarah. I'm Priyanka Kundu. I'm a public health nutritionist here with the public health department. So I've had my good luck and fortune to meet with Sarah previously. So I just wanted to take a minute to applaud you, Sarah, your office, and everyone here basically who is working so hard in meeting and supporting children and family. I did not have any specific question, but I did want to take this opportunity to share about a program that we have at the public health department, which is called the Family Friendly Workplace Certification Program, which is all about supporting families who are working and helping them in meeting the work-life balance, making sure they have all their accommodations and legal needs met if they're pregnant or if they're at their postpartum states, if they're breastfeeding. So that's what the program is about. I really encourage all of you who are here to look at it. I'm going to put the link in the chat for you to review that. And then again, if you could just help us promote the event large and wide. We are really trying to connect with employers, businesses who have a address in Santa Clara County. Everyone is welcome to attend, participate in the program, attend the trainings. And then, of course, to Sarah also, if there is any way that your office could help us in making these connections, or if you can give me some ideas as to where I should be looking for making these connections, I would really, really appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Priyanka. And I want to give a shout out to Priyanka for doing really, really important work on employment rights of pregnant and of new mothers and families in the workplace. It's critical work. It's had great results, and there's a lot of really fantastic materials that she and the public health department have put out. So let me give that some thought, and then we can circle back and set up a quick call if that would be helpful.
Thank you, Sarah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. And as I said, if you have more questions, please, share them with us in the chat so we could put that together if you had any things that was standing out in your mind. But I'm going to give Sarah a few minutes to share some closing comments. I would hopefully everyone could hang tight, then I'll have a few things to say before we close out the space. So Sarah, I give the screen to you for your closing comments.
Thank you, Susie, and thank you for moderating today. And really, I just want to say that it's been a real pleasure to be here with you all and to learn just a little bit about the work that some of you do, and really begin relationships with many of you to do work together on priority issues for children and families in the county. I hope that you'll all be open to my reaching out for your expertise on areas that you all are very knowledgeable about, specific to different projects that come up. I think at any given point, our office will be working pretty intensely on several key areas, and we want to make sure that we are getting input from the organizations on the ground doing the work directly with community, and also can link us to community. So please feel free to email me. I will, if someone hasn't already. I saw a note about putting my email in the chat, so I will go ahead and do that. Please email me also if there's anything that comes up that you think that our office should be aware of. Also, please be patient. Patient on the website. That may take some time. We don't actually have a staff person do that yet, but I'm hopeful that we can get that up by at least get kind of a bare bones site up by the end of the year to host some resources on, and I look forward to working together.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for taking that time out today and leading this charge and taking time out to really build relationships and community with everyone doing this work. And thank you so much for everyone that made time today to come out and have conversations and be in community as we center the needs and the voices and of our children and our youth and our families. And thank you all for all the incredible work that each of you do every single day to do that. I so appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and kick it. And it was such an honor for me to be able to moderate as well. So thank you for giving me that opportunity. And I'm going to pass it to you, Kira.
Thank you. We've got 2 more minutes of your time, hopefully, before you jet off with a couple announcements. One, obviously, thank you so much, Susie, for moderating today's meet and greet. Huge thank you to Sarah, sharing your background and priorities for Santa Clara County's Office of Children and Families Policy. I know you've already started this, guys, in the chat, but please show your appreciation with Zoom reactions and messages for both Susie and Sarah through the chat. Thanks also to our fantastic co-hosts, Behavioral Health Contractors Association, Kids in Common, Educare, Silicon Valley, First 5 Santa Clara County, and Project Safety Net, because they all helped us put together this Children and Youth Nonprofit Meet and Greet series. Last, we really want to be accessible to you as a nonprofit association, so please look at this slide because it gives you some people you can contact. And if they are not the right people, they will reach out to others in our organization who can answer your questions. And also we look for feedback. So feel free to email us with feedback and suggestions to help us improve on the ways we serve the sector. Thanks, everybody. Thanks also, want to say a shout out to Alan and Claire on our policy team and the rest of the SVCN team for handling all the logistics for this event. Hope to see you all at our future events.